Hello plant friends, it's Foliar here and welcome to my tiny balcony here in suburban Sydney, where I'm learning to grow cold, cool and intermediate orchids without the help of any extra equipment such as greenhouses and grow lights. It's just me, my orchids and Mother Nature out there. If you're new here, welcome and thank you for finding me and pressing play. And if you have been here before, welcome back. It's lovely to have you. Now, sorry, I'm just banging my table. It's a great old day here in Sydney. It's been storming for the last 5 days and it's due to be continuing for the next few days at least. So I thought what I would do is I would take you inside to the kitchen and talk about calcium. Calcium in nature is readily available through the soil substrates and plants can take it as they need it. However, in our potted culture, our plants don't have that luxury and we have to help them along a bit to give them the balanced nutrient they need. Now, calcium, I'm just going to say here, I'm no chemist, I'm no biochemist, I'm no botanist. I just know what I've read, what I've seen, what I've watched. And I know that calcium is usually taken up as a trace element. Now, our store-bought products here, I've got trace elements of percent per weight per weight and doesn't even have any calcium in it. So plant's not getting calcium from this. And the 6 monthly has a calcium of 0.3% in this, but because we're putting so little of this into our plants, there's not going to be enough. Now, before I do go back inside, I just wanted to talk about calcium deficiency. Now, calcium is a building block of our plants here, and this is not an orchid, it is a peace lily, but it is displaying classic signs of a calcium deficiency, where we have a dying leaf tip with a yellow halo in there, and I'll see if I can bring that further forward for you. And this just means this plant is not getting enough calcium. Now, I am fertilizing this regularly, so that tells me that the calcium that is in trace elements here in these particular store-bought fertilizers is not quite enough for this plant's healthy growth. I don't have any orchids that are exhibiting this deficiency at the moment. I do have a couple with other problems, but I thought, well, I might just start treating them anyway based on my peace lily and what I've read, but I need to make some. Okay, so we're going to make our calcium rich water now by dissolving our eggshells into our white vinegar. And the first thing we want to do is we want to be cleaning our eggshells. Now, these have all been boiled and dried. You can dry them in the oven for just a few minutes until the internals go a little bit yellow. In this case, I just air dried them after I had soaked them in boiling water for a little bit. So you can do one of two things. You can either put your eggshells in a mortar and pestle and crush them up, or whiz them up in the blender. Now, what this does is it will give you a little powder. We're going to let that settle down a little bit. So some I blended up earlier. It increases the surface area for the chemical reaction to occur. It happens a little faster. If we were to dissolve these eggshells in their current state, this would be probably 7 to 14 days to complete the reaction. If we blend them up like this, it's maybe a couple of hours, overnight kind of thing. In my white jar, I'm going to measure out a half litre of plain white vinegar, which is a 5% strength. And the reason I'm using a tall vessel is that as the chemical reaction happens, this is going to expand up, it's going to be foamy. And the other thing we want to add is 10% of the volume of our vinegar of our eggshells. So if I've got half a litre of white vinegar, I want to add 50 grams of eggshells. There we go. So we've got 51 grams, that's fine. And I'm now going to slowly add these to the vinegar. Got a wooden spoon. And very quickly you'll see the bubbles, the dissolving eggshells. And because it's a tall jar, I can put them all in. Here we can see the fizzing action. That is normal, that is okay. We can also see the bubbles starting to, of the CO2 starting to accumulate at the top. And that is just going to get taller and taller. And if it's a short jar, you will end up with an overflowing volcano. What we can do is we can take a permeable cloth so that the CO2 can get out, put a band over it to hold it in place. The CO2 gas can still pass through the dry paper towel. That'll stop it fizzing over the top. Now, because this is dissolving out, it's going to take a little bit of time. I'm just going to set it aside. When I come back, I will have left my calcium water here for 5 days because I just didn't get a chance to film the second part of this video. So once your eggshells have finished fizzing up in their tall glass container, we are just going to take another receptacle. I'm using a glass Pyrex jug, a sieve and a paper towel, and I'm just going to gently filter this through the paper towel to take any of the eggshell residue out of the mixture. Now, if you're like me and you have stone bench tops, you want to be a little bit careful about this because there is still a small amount of acid in the mixture. You want to be wiping that up pretty quickly so that it doesn't dissolve your bench tops, especially if you have a marble bench top. Marble is calcium carbonate, and it is the metamorphosed form of limestone. Okay. Now I do have a spoon which I'm just going to gently stir that with, and I'm just going to let that sit aside, filter off. The reason for the 5% vinegar is it allows you to make an easy conversion for dilution purposes. So I wasn't actually sure about this, so I went and Googled it. So regular white vinegar is 5% acetic acid and 95% water. Now, the chemical reaction, I'm no chemist, but I am, Google kindly advises me that it is a 2-to-1 acetic acid molecule to oxygen molecule, and that brings our calcium concentration down to about 2.5%. So I'm going to take 1 teaspoon or 5 ml of my mixture and put it into 1 litre of water. And this is just regular tap water. Pop my lid on, mix it up and spray. And it's now ready to spray on our orchids. This will keep for a few months on your shelf. So I'm just going to pop that into in this case, it's just a glass bottle. And we just seal that up. I'm going to pop a label on that, and that is my calcium enriched foliar spray. Okay, so here I have an orchid this is the one from Orchid ED actually, and I've planted it into a clear plastic container. I know that I've seen the roots on this. Yeah, here it is here. So this is the very good looking root, and it's got 3 nice new roots at the top. Yes, it's got 2 new leaves coming through. This is also a new leaf, but there is some yellowing to these leaves, which looks potentially indicative of a calcium deficiency. I've got my sprayer with my calcium water in it, and I'm just going to spray all of this plant under and over the top. I'm going to spray down into around there. And that plant now has been sprayed with calcium water or calcium enriched water, and I'm just going to let that dry naturally. And that's all there is to it. So by the end of this video, I have a litre of this particular product. I've actually still got one of the batches I've made for the video. So rather than tipping this down the drain, I thought I might decant it down into 2 bottles. And for 2 people, I'll do a draw at the first video in February. 2 of my lucky viewers will get a bottle of this. Now, this I can post interstate. So if you like to be in the draw to win a 250ml bottle of this calcium water, please comment below why you think you have a calcium deficiency in your plants And for each person who has put an entry, and it's 1 entry per person, I will put you into a draw to receive a bottle of this calcium water, be half the size of this. So that will be in the first video of February. So please have your comments below by the 31st of January, and I will announce the winners in the video after that. So for now, thanks for watching, taking the time to spend a little bit of your day with me and learn a bit more about orchid growing, and we look forward to seeing you all next week. I have no idea what I'm going to be doing next week yet. So plant friends, thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye. Some people do, they will take eggshells and they'll crush them up and they'll sprinkle them in the garden. Now that's a solid state, and that's not in any kind of form that the plants can take the calcium. It needs to break down into a liquid form first. So adding the calcium in the form of crushed shells, or in this case crushed eggshells, is not immediately beneficial to the plant. Sure, it will break down in time, but that time the plant needs to have the calcium.